Welcome back to the Business of Speed podcast. My name is Vincenzo Landino, and I am joined by my co-host, Colombian Lali Mikkelsen.
I don't understand why I have to be the co-host. I think I'm the host and you're the co-host.
Would that make you happy?
I'm Lali Mikkelsen and I'm joined by my co-host, Vincenzo Landino.
I'm happy to be the co-host.
I think that's
okay.
better. It just has a better ring to it, I think.
Perfect. I love it. I'm okay with it. This episode, we teased in episode 0, we told people that we were going to talk a little bit about what our manifesto was, the things that we believe are changing, the things that we believe are happening in racing.
Not only that, I think that we get asked often, now that we've sort of launched this new venture in its new form, so to speak, what are you doing? What are you offering? Like so many emails we get, right? What's the offering? Can you tell me concretely, what are you offering? So we thought, you know what, let's put out a manifesto so people know what we're about, know what we believe.
Mm-hmm.
And, the inquiring minds want to know. So let's satiate their minds.
I've been asked why a manifesto too. What does, by you, even you asked me, a manifesto, that sounds so serious, but it is, because we have certain beliefs and we have certain ways that we think things are changing and things should be. And by laying them out this way, it just shows that we have actual thoughts and we are using our experience over the past 2 decades to bring something different to the table, whether it's personality, whether it is the knowledge that we can bring, but also something very different in the fact that nobody wants to talk about B2B. No one's looking to bring and make B2B cool. Everybody wants all the big consumer brands and the big tech brands. And that's what they want to talk about. And don't get me wrong, I think it's great as well, but there's a whole world out there of businesses that just power and partner with other businesses. And even if you look at just some of the sponsors that are out there in just Formula One world, but Formula One, even IndyCar with NTT and Formula One with Oracle, AWS, all of the McLaren sponsors, Google and everything they have on their car. Those are all partners that are very B2B centered businesses. They're
B2B.
Powering other businesses.
Arrow Electronics is they started in IndyCar. Nobody knew who Arrow Electronics was. Now they're obviously part of the McLaren ecosystem. There's so much B2B. And in fact, IndyCar has been a model for a long time for B2B sponsorships. For a very long time, because the reality was there weren't that many eyeballs on the series, so it was more of a B2B play. Obviously, there was DHL, there was Target for a very long time, but really it was a very big B2B play for decades. And the reality is that F1 is also now a very big B2B play as well, right? There's a lot of sponsors that you see on cars, names that nobody recognizes, right? Because you can't buy their product. It's not for you. It's a B2B play. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, most people, if they weren't a client of mine, right? When Red Bull signed Oracle, or when Oracle and Red Bull partnered, a lot of people are like, what's Oracle? I mean, people didn't know what Oracle was unless they've used it in some regard in their
Or
company.
they were America's Cup fans like myself.
Or they were America's Cup fans, but again, very small racing subset. And so it's fascinating to see how much money comes from these businesses, these very large corporations, and people don't even realize who they are.
Tassiano, which is now with Williams, AWS, like there's so many that we can.
They're all there. But to where we come in is we believe that the old model is dead. The idea that sponsorship is just signage. You throw money at your, having a logo on a car, and that's good enough.
It's an anachronism. It doesn't work. That's not.
It doesn't. It's not effective. It's very expensive. Oftentimes, it's just an ego play. It is some executive that said, I want to play in that sandbox with those people. I want to be seen there. I want to get suites at Formula One Grand Prix, and that's where I want to be. It tends to be an ego play.
It is. I want to be seen at Monaco. I want to be on the yacht. I want to do that. For a very long time, that was what was happening. But
yep.
Times are a change, my friend.
They change, and what we have set out to change, or I guess what we believe is the advantage today is velocity, is the C-suite, the brands, the rights holders. You have to move faster, yes, but you also have to connect deeper. You have to connect with the
Exactly.
fans that you're getting in front of. You have to execute. You have to have a reason almost to exist within that ecosystem. If you're just showing up as a logo on a car, I mean, McLaren's a perfect example. If you are a sponsor on the McLaren car right now in Formula One, you are battling with, I don't even know the
How
exact
many?
number. It might be 100.
27 other sponsors?
It's some ridiculous number
Some
that,
ridiculous number, and the reality is that I want people listening right now to tell me how many McLaren sponsors they can name, and they can probably name 3 because there are so many. They're all lost in the melee of sponsorships.
mhm,
The reality is that none of them are not. I would say that currently today, the only super, super there's 2 perhaps, clever sponsorships on an actual car are Duracell Williams. Come
mm,
on. Incredible. People must be those Energizer people must be killing themselves if they didn't think about that first. And I really like the "What's Up" with the Mercedes. I think that that was a very clever play, right? Those are 2 very cool, so well thought out, so laser focused sponsorships. But the reality is that other than a few sponsors, nobody can name the McLaren sponsors, right? Because there's no impact. It's just the logo slap. That's not what we're about.
and there are some that are doing a good job, and I'll give them their flowers. But for everybody else, you have to differentiate. How do you differentiate? And so we built Business of Speed, the consulting offering together, Lali and I. We built that to be almost an operating system to connect you with your audience, where they are for maximum impact. It is not enough to get views and clicks and other vanity metrics. It's just not enough. And if you look at Formula One car, how fast it goes by, if you've been to a racetrack and you've watched a car go by, you can't make out what's on the side of a car. You can't.
Certainly, if you've been to a racetrack, you not. At home, you have the luxury of seeing the cars.
Absolutely.
If you've
Absolutely.
ever been to a racetrack, whether it's an IndyCar race or a Formula One race or a NASCAR race, whatever race you've been to,
Hmm.
my friends, you know that you cannot make out anything on those cars unless you are super lucky and you have some paddock access, which means that you get to see those cars when they are stationary in the garage.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
And even then, you're not looking at the sponsors on the side of the
you're
car.
really not looking at because you're so in awe of the cars. But the
The
reality is
car.
that
Yeah.
if you're at a racetrack, you're not appreciating who's sponsoring what car whatsoever. So we think that that in and of itself is a wasted space of sponsorship, that there's a lot to be done in that space on track.
Hmm.
Yeah, we're just done with the sticker mentality, right? We're so over it.
Yeah.
Why put your sticker on a one of a million? That's a
No.
waste of 10, $20 million.
So not only do we reject the sticker mentality, but we reject these passive deals. A lot of these deals are very passive. It's, like I said, agreements that they're just tied to vanity metrics. There's no real world operational impact or fan engagement or cultural leverage. Culture is very, very fascinating to me. I know it's fascinating to Lolly. And if you, I mean, we'll take Netflix itself and what they've done to F1, but not just F1, the entire racing ecosystem, all different series. Everybody wants to copy what Formula One did with
Everyone.
Drive to Survive because it was a cultural lever that was pulled. You know, it was great timing. Liberty Media, F1 Media, Netflix, the production companies, they did a fantastic job to make that happen. But it was a cultural movement for a few seasons
It
before
was.
it started to die down, and that's what happens, right? There's TV shows are no longer good after 3 or 4 series, right? It's very rare you get a Game of Thrones, a Breaking Bad, a Sopranos, like
No, but you're
it
right.
doesn't
There's
exist anymore.
In my advertising world, you know how many times clients have come and they have this idea of this biopic, some kind of a docu situation.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
everyone always says, "It's kinda like a Drive to Survive." Kinda like a Drive to Survive.
Everybody wants Drive to Survive, just like,
People who have
y
nothing to it's about, like,
yeah.
potato chips, but they wanna make it f look and feel like a Drive to Survive. This
The
is a
last
very
time I
common thing.
the
It's
last time I
cultural
heard
zeitgeist.
something was, with Anthony Bourdain, Parts Unknown. A lot of our customers, this is before the Drive to Survive days, we wanna create a Parts Unknown, an Anthony Bourdain vibe where our employees go exploring whatever, our customers' locations and things like that. But it was a cultural move, like, they were trying to
Well, he
tie
was a
themselves to
phenomenon,
some
and,
other
you
cultural
know,
phenomenon.
shout out to Anthony Bourdain, like,
Yeah,
absolute legend of a man, rest in
rest in
peace.
peace. But to us, we reject that passive deal. A deal should not just be a line item. They should not just be a transaction. Yep, we signed on to put our sticker on this car. We're going to get some paddock passes. We're going to get some meet and greets, and that's it. There has to be more. You have to go beyond. You have to integrate with the audience that you are trying or you're getting in front of. If you can give to them, they will give back to you.
Give back.
And so we truly, truly reject this passive deal. I've seen it far too many times with current sponsors, current very large sponsors who have spent hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars to be on the side of a car. And then you don't even know they exist after that. Other than being on the side of the car, you don't really know that they're even there. They don't
There was a time
engage with fans.
when we were kids and we were growing up watching motorsports because there were so few of us fans, we were so loyal to the brands. I remember I had to once rent a moving truck, and I specifically rented a Penske truck because I was so grateful for Penske for
There you
being a
go.
sponsored motorsports, etc. I went out of my way to not rent a U-Haul and rent a Penske because I was so grateful that he was a part of the series that I loved so much. That nowadays, so that was us, right? Where you were actually brand loyal. Now, I think people have forgotten that they're when you're a fan of a sport, when you're really a diehard, you're loyal. So we've forgotten that. And so that's why I don't like the passive deal, because we need to get into people's loyalty and they want to support your brand because it's part of a team or a driver who they love and adore. And I am going to buy this, not your competitors, specifically because this driver or this team is benefiting directly from your
Sure.
sponsorship.
Sponsorship is now partnership. That's
Yep,
what it comes down to.
100%.
You're not buying space, you're building some sort of leverage. You're getting your hands dirty as a sponsor. You're integrating into the culture of speed, and that requires systems. That requires
Yeah.
legwork. That requires knowledge. That requires your employees to be engaged. That requires you to actually show up. That requires you to dedicate more resources. You can't say, well, I already spent $500 million to be on the side of the car. We're not going to spend any more. Well, if you spend 500 million, you can spend another whatever it takes to make sure you get the impact of that
Your
sponsorship.
return.
And that's where we also reject what we are calling, or at least I'm calling, the black box.
Yeah, I love
And
that. We reject the
this
black box.
the idea that these motorsports partnerships are so complex and specialized that the C-suite can't really grasp, and that they're confused, or it is just an ego play. It has been traditionally just an ego play, but that confusion and that lack of transparency with the C-suite is what leads to underinvestment, missed opportunities, and really not tying the appropriate operational, keep KPIs to a sponsorship.
So you know what I explained to someone the other day, Vincenzo? So
What did you say?
imagine that you sawed your lawn, right? You sawed your lawn. It cost you a fortune. It
Mhm.
cost you a fortune to sod your lawn. But then you're like, "Well, I don't wanna put the sprinkler system into water because I already spent a fortune
Yep.
sodding my lawn, so
Yep.
I don't wanna put the water." So that's what I tried to explain to someone. It doesn't matter that you spent $50 million putting your logo on
Correct.
the car. That does nothing for you. How are we gonna activate that? How are we gonna leverage that? What can we do
Absolutely.
to actually make this a proper ROI for you beyond the logo slap, as we call it? You cannot just sod your lawn and then say, "I don't have the money for the water," because we all know what's gonna happen to that sod, right? So this is exactly what we're talking about, the underinvestment. Just putting the logo on the car is not enough. You need people with passion, something we talk about a lot, extreme creativity, you know, to come in and tell you or guide you to how you maximize this investment because it is a huge investment and we appreciate that. Let's just invest a little bit more and get this really rolling for you. Let's rock and roll for real.
It's about being bold. It's about taking chances. You've already spent $500 million, whatever it might be. Why not be bold? Why not break out of the box that traditionally you've sat in? I know there's a lot of sponsors that they will go and sponsor a car, and it's something that they've never done before. They never thought they could do before. They do it, and then they're paralyzed by the fact that they've done it, and they think, okay, we've checked the box. We checked the box. We did it, and
We
okay,
put it on our LinkedIn. We put it on our LinkedIn.
we got it across the finish line. Okay. I mean, if that's enough for you, fine, but you're probably not going to reinvest, right? So this actually works in many different ways. This works for teams to want to engage their partners, and it works for the brands that want longevity out of their partnership. It works for rights holders who, need the private or, money coming in from these brands. If you're not engaging them properly, you're constantly having to recycle. There's so much turnover with sponsors because they don't know what to do beyond giving
You
you
know what
money
else?
and
Vincenzo's
getting their
interesting.
name put somewhere.
Something else that's interesting is that right now, depending on if you think about, let's say IndyCar, there's 17 races I think next year, F124. The circuits themselves are competing to draw
Mm,
crowds. That's
mhm.
something that we can touch about in future episodes. But the reality is that I'm a huge fan. I do not have unlimited resources. I may be able to, let's say, go to one or two races a year. Who wants my money? Where am I going to
Yeah,
get the best experience,
absolutely.
right? So even the circuits are competing for our dollars or pound sterling for our UK friends,
Or euro
or euros or pesos in my Colombian friends.
or whatever reals in Saudi Arabia.
Reais in Brazil. But that even that so it really if you think about it, it's not only the rights holders, it's not only the sponsors, it's not only the teams, it's not only the drivers who are competing for attention. The circuits themselves have become a very big business. And they themselves need to bring in the fans because guess what? If you don't have people in those grandstands and the Drive to Survive peak, okay, we're probably at the peak, right? We've probably reached our
Maybe.
peak. So
Maybe it's coming down a little bit.
filling grandstands isn't an easy task. And I've never worked in promotion, but I have close friends who have. It is not the easiest task and there's a lot of stress up until, weeks before a race happens where you're stressed about selling out the grandstands and the promoters have a lot of, a weight on their shoulder, so to speak, right? So even in that sense, it's like, how do you promote your track? Who do you bring in to promote your track, to sell the tickets, to make it more attractive? There's so many moving parts in racing that people don't realize. Everybody's competing for attention.
Yeah. So we have our 6 mechanisms of velocity. So business of speed. I think we probably have more, but these are our 6
Six major.
core
Yeah.
mechanisms, how to execute or how we help execute this model and how we turn, these contracts into an actual advantage for you, and a competitive advantage against the other 75 sponsors you might be competing against. So number 1 is C-suite education, first and foremost. This to me probably sits right around 1A, right? It is as important as our next one. But if leadership doesn't understand what it is they're buying into or they're signing off on, how can they ensure that the strategy is or that they're driving the strategy? How can they ensure that the people under them are bought into
And
it?
into it, and there's all the stakeholders and the people on the board of directors and all the staff. If you have a company of thousands of employees, how do you justify this investment to these people who are profit
Hmm.
sharing, et cetera, right? So
Yeah.
if your leaders don't understand the sport and the why and the benefit, you're doomed. The other thing that is sort of and forgive the word, slightly cringe perhaps, is for someone on a C-suite level who sponsors a car or a team or a driver to show up. to the Grand Prix of Las Vegas or anywhere, Qatar, Miami, anywhere, and they literally do not know anything about racing. This is a problem. You need to know
I've
the
seen it.
player. You need to know who Zach Brown is. You need to know Toto Wolff. You need to know what's happening because your company has spent a ton of money and you need to be informed and you need to be educated. So C-suite education, I think, is a big umbrella that
Mhm.
we cover, and I think one of the core offerings that we're very passionate about because we think it makes a big difference, actually.
Yeah, for me, having a lot of experience with the C-suite at very large multinational companies, they don't have time. They don't have time. They don't have hours of time. So what we've built is, kind of like insider briefings almost and custom intelligence reports for C-suite, for the C-suite. Here is what you need to know. Here's almost like a dossier of everything that matters for you, for your partnership and what's happening, talking points, how to keep you up to date. I mean, it's essentially how Business of Speed, the newsletter, was born and was geared towards, but we're going a little more custom based on, our clients and who they're associated with. It matters. That does matter. So we custom tailor these reports and this intelligence for the C-suite. It is crucial to have as much knowledge as they can. Um, you have very important leaders in a company that they're going from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting. They are bouncing around the world. They don't have time to fully, immerse themselves. But if they're able to,
They're not under the
take a look
obligation
at something,
to be
no,
Formula 1 experts or IndyCar experts or WEC experts or
but
they're
we want to help them.
we want to help them. Maybe their
Yeah.
passion is baseball. You can continue being very passionate about baseball. You bring us in and we will help you feel very comfortable in the F1 world.
Yeah. So with 1A, I think comes 1B or vice versa, about partnership messaging. And these deals, these incredible deals are really nothing without the story behind them. And crafting a narrative, crafting a story as to what and why, the why behind partnerships, is how you start to humanize that brand, how you start to humanize that partnership. You create clarity behind the deal and how it might be empowering everything from a pit stop to the sales team, right? Like you look at AWS, there's data that they are processing, and there are millions of data points that they are processing from the car to the team back at the factories, right? Like they are processing this data and it works at so many different levels. And there's other sponsors that do the same thing. AWS is one that came to mind, but there's dozens. Every team has some sort of data partner like that. And we oftentimes don't hear enough about these data partners. We don't know what they're doing other than occasionally like a white paper and things like that. But there's opportunities for them to tell that story. And so the messaging of that partnership, how are you telling that? How are you connecting with the audience that has no idea who you are?
Literally
They
no
have no
idea.
idea why you're involved,
Yeah.
right? Oftentimes there's negative narratives that go around about a lot of these companies, right? Obviously large companies that are all over the world and in a very political sport, they catch a lot of flack for anything. So why not build your own narrative? And that's why we have the narrative engine, and we want to make sure that we build the narrative for you and that
Very
partnership.
passionate about this as well because obviously as a lifelong writer, storyteller, this is very much something that I'm very passionate about because a good story can either make or break an idea, right? So
Mhm.
if you already have an incredible product, but if you're not telling the right story with the right messaging and it's really evocative and it makes sense and it's not trite and people really buy into it and believe it and they see the connection, they see the passion, you're going to hit a home run likely. The reality is that really really good storytelling drives creative in all aspects. That's just a given, right? In the world of marketing and advertising, et cetera. And at the end of the day, that's what we're doing here, right? You're marketing your company. The reality is nobody's doing this. This is not like I say, it's not a charity organization, right? This is all for money. This is a very for-profit business across everyone involved. And if if you have the right story, that's going to be really, really helpful for your bottom line. And it goes back to that sort of loyalty thing, right? People connect. And as soon as you have someone connect in any way to what you're trying to say, what you're trying to sell, you're winning. You really are winning that game because there's so much distraction in the arena. You need to be the ones who stand out with a really compelling, laser focused story that makes sense to people, that seems genuine, and you're gonna get brand loyalty that way.
Yeah. Uh, our third pillar is content creation, which I think is it's table stakes in the game right now. Content connection, where audiences live. You have to find, there are so many different places nowadays, and it seems like there's new places every week, every month, maybe a new place where people can connect and be social and do things. It's so important for the brands to, and I say just the brands, not just the brands, but again, rights holders, executives, to show up. You just show up. Not everything needs to be the highest production value content all the time. There's many times the more real, authentic content is what wins with those folks. We see it all the time. Right? McLaren. When I say McLaren, any team will post something super high production value. It's cool, but everything on the feed is high production value. The minute they just have one of the drivers talking to the camera, walking off, off the grid or off the paddock, it goes crazy, right? Because
Okay,
people
wait, my
feel like
favorite example of this, and I didn't even know you were gonna talk about this, is what about, and this is, I think everybody who watches F1 will, and I'm sorry if you don't watch F1, but if you do, you're gonna really relate to this. After the race, when the first, second, and third place driver are in that TV room right before they go out on the podium,
great content.
and we have the hot mics, and we're just listening to, like, Max ask Oscar, "Oh, that was you? Did you see when this what were you braking late? Did you notice that on turn 7 it
Fantastic.
was a did you see the rat run across the," and we're all riveted and just hearing them talk, right? It's the least scripted moment of the whole thing, and then when they cut away from it, they're all like, "No, no, we wanted to hear more," because
It's
we're
the
so
best.
it's the best. And honestly, I'm very upset every time they cut away from that because everyone adores it, and we just like hearing them talk. We had that really famous moment back in the day when, remember, Lewis threw the cap at Nico? He was so pissed off, and then
Oh yeah,
Nico
he
took
was pissed.
it back, and, like, those real moments behind the scenes, we really like that very
Well, we
much
had
on.
multi 21, Weber and Vettel. That was another good one.
I'm sorry for those of you who don't understand Multi-21, just Google it because that is sort of,
It's a good one.
iconic in F1 history, Multi-21, but we don't have time in this podcast to explain it,
But
maybe in another.
for the content, this is why we have a content flywheel that we design. We help to build more brand equity or I guess it's partnership equity through the content. Yes, engagement matters. It's great to have the highest engaged posts and whatnot, but are people remembering you beyond that post? If it's just you need to go and create more and more posts to get people to hit their dopamine, that's you can only create so much, right? And we understand the limitations, but being able to have or drive specific and measurable actions from your target audience, that's what's more important, right? Especially in the B2B world, that's very important, right? And that's where sometimes there's a difference between the B2B and the B2C. It's sure Red Bull, they can sell high flying, extreme all day long. It's whatever. IBM or AWS, can they really sell that all day? Yeah, they can do it. They can do a stunt, but no one will remember it past the stunt. And so how do you create something that lasts, has a longer tail, actually drives some sort of action that's measurable from that audience? And that's what we, again, from the experience we have and working with these types of brands, that's what we're helping build the content flywheel. Um,
Which leads up to,
Go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say the next sort of cog in the wheel is activations, right? Something that we both have
I
I've
know you're
worked with
very passionate about that.
extensively.
So
I worked extensively in activations, absolutely adore them. I think that a well done activation is brilliant. I think some of them are very vanity based and narcissistic, etc., and they're just money you throw away. which is not what we like to do for our clients. We like to do very clever sort of, I'll use the word that I used earlier, laser focus activations that really bring together stakeholders, decision makers that work. And they're not always on track on a circuit also. That's something that we should clarify. Sometimes they're adjacent, they're in the vicinity of a track or a circuit, but they don't have to be necessarily on site at a circuit.
Yeah. I, no, really. I mean, you nailed it. I don't even have to go further. It's yeah. There's some good ones I've seen, some pretty good ones I've seen. There are some teams that are doing a good job of having some activations at certain circuits, which is great. It's great engagement for fans, and fans talk about it. You know, again, being tapped in to where people are talking, whether it's online or kind of ear to the ground. When you nail your activation in Miami and everyone's talking about you, even though you're a bottom of the grid team, that's a win. That's a win. That could be the difference between no sponsors next year and a handful of high paying sponsors. And I'm not saying no sponsors literally, but
That means people don't understand the amount of or I'm sorry, I don't mean to maybe our audience does understand, but the amount of money involved, that could
mhm,
mean hiring 5 more engineers, being able to go from a C tier driver, so to speak, to a B tier driver. Like, that really represents that sponsorship money that you can bring into the team. It represents so much more beyond just the logo. Like, in actual dollars for the team, it means a
absolutely.
lot. Oh,
Yeah. And then with activations comes event hosting, which is a little bit different. It's more of uh, the personality hire, really, over here, Lali and myself. But using
I mean, who
ourselves,
wouldn't want us?
we want to leverage what we love to do, which is networking and helping facilitate um, kind of like insider led events. Whether it could be at a circuit, could be at a team hospitality, but there is a lack of knowledgeable and insider type hosts
Certainly
for
not from
for
women from Colombia, 0.
no, 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 no. It's more than hospitality, right? There are plenty of hospitality companies out there that hire attractive people to be you know in a suite and serve drinks, and that's great. I mean, we
They're lovely. Yes,
it's
of course.
lovely. They're lovely.
They're lovely.
But there's also a need, and I've actually had brands specifically ask for this type of stuff where they're looking for almost like they want to hang out with insiders. They want to hang out with knowledgeable folks that can help them almost understand or deepen relationships. You introduce them, like create more partnerships right there within the room. And so,
Sort
Lali
of
and myself,
liaise,
yeah, I mean, we've done this for such a long time, liaising and helping bring together brands. It's what I did for the better part of
but also, for
over
instance,
a decade.
very comfortable public speakers because for instance, I've been
Sure.
pitching creative and doing awards and doing speeches when I've
Mhm.
had the fortune to win awards in the past. So we're very comfortable as public speakers, but the reality is that, like, there if you took blood out of our veins, there's motor oil in there, right? So it's you have
So I got some Ajip pulling out, hanging out of my blood over here.
there you go. So that's us. So yeah, so event hosting is one of our offerings because we just love to do it. We love to be in front of people. We're very social
Yeah.
and we love networking with people and
If you're looking to deepen key client relationships, partner relationships in an environment where you have already invested in, such as, a hospitality suite, or you are already a partner and you have access to, Paddock Club, whatever it might be, you have a suite in there. If your key clients are there, you want them to be engaged in such a way that's going to want them to invest more, come back, talk
facilitate
positively.
facilitate the situation.
And facilitating those is something that we have come to specialize in. And then lastly, one of our final pillars, but I think the pillar that we had talked about a little bit earlier, employee engagement. Your employees, whether you are a rights holder, a brand, a team, your employees are the greatest asset. And so demystifying what motorsports is in general, Formula One 101 sessions that Lali was talking about earlier, or just motor or racing 101, different racings. It's so important to get employees on board. That's how you truly activate. When you have people on board, not just your C-suite, but the C-suite, management, leadership, and then all the way down to just the employees that are working on this. If everybody's on board, they understand, they can take pride in it, but they also have a little bit of excitement around it. That's how you fully activate a partnership. That's how you fully engage your audience, when everybody is truly excited. Not just someone at the top who's telling everybody else, well, you have to do this, or maybe some people at the bottom who are trying to push it up to the C-suite and trying to get them to understand it. When everything comes together, and I hate to use this word, this synergy, but when there is that synergy between leadership, C-suite, employees, the brands, the partners, that's how you make sweet music. You can't do that without everybody really in unison, working in unison. And so that's where things like our lunch and learns, or employee specific events that we host are so important. Educational events are so important. Getting people on board, getting them to understand why it is we are doing what we are doing as the brand.
Reality is that when you're sponsoring F1, a lot of these organizations have thousands of employees, right? So that's a lot of people that could be fans and that could be fans and that could support this. Sometimes it's hard when you're the person in payroll, right? You don't understand, why is this company spending so much money on this? Why are they not just giving us all bonuses? Wouldn't that be a better way to use the money, right? So
Mm-hmm.
for us to come in and explain to them, no, actually, you're likely to get a bigger bonus if this partnership works out because of this and this and this, then it makes sense for the employee. They're like, okay, see, I get it. I get it, right? So that matters, to get employee buy-in when you're spending so much money on something, right? Especially for companies that are, not totalitarian, companies who actually have a really nice culture. Well, why don't we just educate your staff and your employees across the world and explain to them why this makes sense and why you're doing it? And bonus, let's tell you a little bit about F1 and why it's amazing. Or again, IndyCar or WEC or wherever you're spending your sponsorship dollars.
This is the system we are building. This is what we call new velocity. This is how we want to see brands partner with rights holders, series, how executives start yielding control, getting buy-in. It's really not the time. Like right now is the time in racing to get in, to go all in, but also do it the right way. It's, you have to be able to iterate. You have to be able to jump quickly. You have to be able to measure the performance. You have to stop just buying space,
Sorry, it was
buying a logo.
I'm sorry for those who are not watching. I had a mosquito on my face and I interrupted Vincenzo's very serious statements. I apologize.
My serious statement here about the company that we're building. She's wiping away her mosquito because she's afraid she's going to get a mosquito bite on her forehead.
It would not be great. It would not be
No, it
ideal for
wouldn't. It
them.
wouldn't. But that's what we're doing, and that's how we want to help. This is our manifesto. This is Business of Speed. Let's get to work. Lali,
I am your host, Lali
Vincenzo.
and here's my co-host.
I'm the co-host, Vincenzo Landino. We're going to catch you in the next one. We have a good episode coming. The following episodes will be shorter than the first two episodes. We are
promise.
aiming for about 20, 25-minute episodes. We were going to be talking about circuits. So tune in to our next episode if you want to hear about circuits. We have some really, really interesting feelings on circuits, and I'm just going to leave it at that. Circuits, tracks. Yeah, we have some
Road tracks,
thoughts, and we
street
have some
tracks.
things we want to talk about.
We want to talk a lot about that. So we'll see
Including
you.
maybe the Portaloo Index. If you don't know what that is, don't look it up. Wait till we talk
Don't
about it.
look it up.
We'll catch you on the next one.
Ciao for now.
Ciao.